and supports my perception that modern counterintelligence now uses the phony CGI Photoshop cover-up in this digital age as they used weather balloons and swamp gas 68 years ago. In fact, Steve Winans from Kansas MUFON sent me a 14-page analysis about color fringing evidence in these dragonfly drone photos. Color fringing occurs when a lens fails to focus all colors. He concluded the color fringing that is present in almost all of the images of the dragonfly drones, including the 12 prints from Ty Brannigan and Big Basin mailed to Linda Moulton Howe, is a strong indication that these images were produced by a camera and not computer software. The simplest explanation is that these images are of an actual unknown object in the sky, close quote. Here is Chad's photo. This is as close as Chad could get. He took this photo, hearing a strange, sort of slightly high-pitched hum when he got close enough, and the object almost seemed as if it wanted or was curious, and he said as soon as he got this close-up photo, the whatever this is went away. These are about 25 feet long, estimated by various people who have seen them, 25 feet, with the big wires going from the round front in the, which suggests some sort of electrostatic issue. So studying the Chad photographs, I decided to rotate the drone tail 180 degrees to see if the numbers and symbols would be more clear. And in the middle section, what I could make out was a plus X, YX7 plus. And I Googled it, and PDS stands for Planetary Data System. I Google, and here I'm into mission name equals Deep Space Program, Science Experiment, Spacecraft name Clementine 1, Producer Institution name Naval Research Laboratory. And look what's down here, starbase.jpl.nasa.gov. And then if you Google Deep Space Program Science Experiment, there is information about the Clementine 1 lunar mapping mission operated by the Naval Research Lab that launched on January 25th, 1994 from Vandenberg Air Force Base, California as a Joint Ballistic Missile Defense Organization, the BMDO, associated with the evolution of the Star Wars program from the Reagan administration, and the NASA lunar photographing effort. Now, Clementine photographed the front, back, and poles of the moon, showing the smoother backside. How many of you have seen photographs of all of the backside of our moon? Has anybody? I don't think any of us have ever seen more than one or two. And yet the Clementine mission's goal stated, I interviewed for radio with a tape recorder, Shoemaker, who was the geophysicist who was responsible for putting together the science of Clementine 1. When I asked him, where are the photographs of the backside of the moon, he was very nervous and said at some point, all of their photos would be analyzed and released to the public. And this is 2015, this was 1994. Clementine, here's what we're used to seeing. Here is the one released backside of the moon, which looks almost as if it has been photoshopped clean. And not long after these discoveries, I tried to research more of the Clementine mission resources at the Naval Research Lab or NASA's Lunar Planetary Institute. I did this myself. I worked very hard. Everything that I had been able to go to only a few nights before suddenly was that horrible web warning, pages not found. I experienced this myself. I had been through all of these different webs. I had gotten to a site where I was looking at all kinds of lunar photographs as in their raw state, as if this was for scientists to use on the web. And I remember looking for the backside and not being able to find it. But nevertheless, here were all of what was promised, a NASA mission to photograph every square inch of the moon. Here are all these photos, and then it's gone. Now remember that this research started from studying the symbols on the Dragonfly drone tails. When you Google Starbase, JPL, NASA.gov, as I just said, I was taken to various indexes. And what it began that night, I remember when I was able to get as far as I got before they scrubbed it. Could there be a connection between the mysterious flickering in and flickering out Dragonfly drones and the 1994 Clementine 1 or other lunar missions and the whole bloody UFO phenomena that is kept from us with policies of denial? Clementine 1 was also scheduled to orbit and photograph this highly unusual Geographos asteroid. Deep Space Network at Goldstone, California in 1994 determined that Geographos is the most elongated object in our solar system. On a 5:1 to 1.8, 5.1 to 1.8 ratio, this is like a very long spindle. It looks almost constructed. This is highly reflective. It's composed of nickel iron mixed with iron and magnesium silicates, according to NASA. But the mission ended when NASA JPL said power suddenly dropped so low that telemetry from Clementine was no longer intelligible. Why that happened, or if it actually really happened, has never been publicly discussed. What is this strange thing, Geographos, out there, with its Greek name again? And bottom line, I've been told by what I think is a reliable insider that the so-called Zeus and Titans were extraterrestrials. They did war with each other, suggested in the previous two speeches, and that is another huge part of our concocted planet. The original Greek gods were extraterrestrials fighting with each other here. The Dragonfly drone mystery deepened with this email on June 26, 2007 from a man describing himself as a scientist and computer software expert who had worked from 1984 to 1987 for a Defense Department funded lab in Palo Alto, California. Quote, "I'm using the alias Isaac and used to work in what was called the Carrot program in the 1980s. During my time there, I worked with a lot of the technology that is clearly at work in the recent drone strange craft sightings, most notably the language and diagrams seen on the underside of each craft." With his letter, Isaac released several pages from a Carrot Lab document about extraterrestrial technologies that include photos and intricate diagrams and symbols that Isaac explained function as self-activating software for extraterrestrial machines, including anti-gravity invisibility generators and holographic projectors. Isaac said, quote, "I'm very familiar with the language on the undersides of the Dragonfly drones seen clearly in photos by Chad and Rajman, and in other form in the Big Basin photos. One question I can answer for sure is why they're suddenly here. These craft have probably existed in their current form for decades, and I can say for sure that the technology behind them has existed for decades before that. The language, in fact, was the subject of my work in years past. The reason they're suddenly visible, however, is another matter entirely. These craft, assuming they're anything like the hardware I worked with in the 1980s and assuming that they are better, in fact, are equipped with technology that enables invisibility. That invisibility can be controlled both on board the craft and remotely. However, what's important in this case is that this invisibility can also be disrupted by other technology. Think of it like radar jamming, whether it is from China Lake or any of the military facilities stumbling upon the frequency that would reveal the extraterrestrial technology in our skies. Here I've taken one of the black and white extraterrestrial diagrams that Isaac sent, and I made lines to where I could find exact matches on the underside of the Chad photo. It was very difficult. I found that when I took tracing paper on these symbols, these are so subtle, they are so difficult even to copy, that it goes to the heart, and I'm running out of time, I know. I feel like I would like to have another hour, and I can't. This is that look at these diagrams, concentrate on this. These are extraterrestrial diagrams. I wish I could bring the person and everything. These are software, self-activating alien software. That's what you're looking at. These are all mathematically related, and here is what CARET stands for, the program that Isaac came from. Commercial Applications Research for Extraterrestrial Technology. This was their December 1986 fourth quarter research. This is at the Palo Alto CARET Laboratory. I received private communication from two different men after I had started reporting this who said, we know about PACL. And one man even said, you can't reveal anything, don't use my email. In Palo Alto, it is a building that looks like a library, and all of PACL is below ground. In the interest of time,